everybody, and welcome to LA2M. My name is Jim Uziel. I am the president of LA2M, and tend to get these meetings kicked off. Thank you, everyone, for being here. What a great turnout. If there's a winter storm, it will always be on the second Wednesday of the month. We always have some big storm when we have LA2M, so thank you guys for coming out and fighting the weather and the roads to get here. We appreciate it. It's a great turnout. I'm sure it has absolutely nothing to do with the topic today or who's here. Real quick, we'll just do a real quick introduction. You guys aren't here to hear me talk, you're here to hear Brad, and so am I. So we'll be real quick about it. LA2M, this organization, we are finishing up our 9th year. In the fall, we'll be starting our 10th year. It's a great organization that continues to grow. Do we have any people here for the very first time? Awesome.
Oh my
Thank you guys.
gosh.
That's so great. So we're awesome. Come back and visit us again. We're here the second Wednesday of every month. We have great speakers, not just Brad. I mean, I'll have Brad every month. You guys will all come. That'd be great. But we have great topics, great speakers. We love to share marketing ideas. We love to share things that are going on trending in the industry. So many of you work in small businesses, the companies you work for. You may wear multiple hats. We love to share those marketing ideas, have you here to share your ideas, and share some great subject matter experts to talk about some great topics. So we continue to grow and get stronger. We grow because of people like you. We also grow because of our sponsors. We have sponsors, as you can see up here on the board. 3.7 Designs, great web design company in Ann Arbor. Ross Johnson, if you know Ross, you know he's a great guy, great company. If you have any web needs, please give them a call. Michigan Credit Union, University of Michigan Credit Union is our sponsor. We're so happy to have them as part of our sponsor. And BDB, Digital Marketing. Corey is in the back here. Corey, you want to stand up and tell us a little bit about BDB?
Yeah, just briefly, we're an agency here in town, and we enjoy helping people who are struggling with keeping their ugly website up to date, okay, and a little more modern. So if you know of anybody who has either an internal marketing department or somebody who works with a contract design agency, we can help those situations. We have a lot of fun doing it. So thank you.
Thanks, Corey. We appreciate that. If you or your company's interested in being a sponsor of LA2M, you can see myself or Stacy, Corey, any one of us. The organization is run by volunteers. We all volunteer our time to be here. We do have one employee. Stacy is our manager. She's the one who sends out the emails, and you get all the correspondence from her and checks us all in. It keeps the organization running, and we appreciate that. But again, the rest of us volunteer our time. Carter from Frog Print Studios up here, he takes our photographs and posts them on our social media pages. Roger Rails in the back, he provides video. Every one of our presentations are videotaped and placed on our website, so if you hear some great things today from Brad and you want to see it again, it'll be up on our website in a couple days or so within a week. And previous talks are there as well, so you can go to our website anytime. It's kind of like our own little version of TED Talk, so feel free to look at them anytime.
And upcoming events are on there.
Say that again?
Upcoming events are already
And our upcoming events are on there as well. We're kind of trying to keep that updated. So we don't use a microphone here, so we all talk loud. So if you do have a question, Brad's going to talk loud. I know he can talk loud. So if you have a question or anything, just make sure you project your voice so everyone in the room can hear it. I think that's about it. Like I said, we're here to see Brad, and that's I want to give him as much time as possible. Brad's going to do his talk. We'll provide some time for questions and answers at the end. If we have time, we usually at the end go around and everyone has the opportunity to stand up and at least introduce themselves. One of the other goals of the organization is to network and connect people. We would love for all of you guys to be doing business together, and hopefully maybe this type of meeting, this type of format can help facilitate that. So don't be in a hurry to leave afterwards. Obviously great food here, enjoy the food. The staff is great here at Buffalo Wild Wings, and have lunch, stick around, you can network, hang out for a little bit. At some point they'll kick us out of the room, but don't be in a hurry to leave at the end of the presentation. I'm fortunate, I met Brad about 5 years ago. I walked into the CrossFit gym and started doing these workouts. I'm like, who's this guy that just keeps kicking butt in the workouts and I can't keep up with him? And it was this guy. So I chased him for a long time in the gym, and we became friends. And he spoke a couple years ago at Zingerman's, and it was one of the best attended, best topics we had here. So we're thrilled that Brad is back here again today. I don't want to steal his thunder, so if you guys put together your hands for him.
Thank you, Jim. And Jim is right. I can pitch my voice working in restaurants all my life, you get used to being loud so that people can hear you. But thank you very much for coming to listen to me talk here. I'm from Zingerman's, and I guess to most of you there's one Zingerman's, and that's fine, but we'll get into a little bit more of the nuts and bolts. How Zingerman's is made up, how we work together, how we market, and how we all stay true to being Zingerman's across 10 different businesses, as a matter of fact. But real quickly, give you a little brief history of myself. I came to Ann Arbor in 1994. I was here in Okemos, which is right east of East Lansing, so I came here for school. So I went to the University of Michigan. Any fellow alumni? But I needed a job when I got here, so in 1994 I went down to this little corner deli that I'd heard about but never been to, and got a job selling bread. Thank you very much. And 4 years later, graduating with a creative writing degree, I realized I was perfectly qualified to work in food service. So I told myself I was working on the Great American Novel, and I continued to work in food service, making sandwiches at times, but always in the front of the house, you know, so the people talking to the customers. Usually in the retail stuff, the cheeses, the meats, olive oil, explaining what to do with balsamic vinegar. And that actually lent a lot of experience into the role that I took up, which was with Zingerman's mail order. So as Zingerman's became more popular and grew, we grew in a very unique way, which was to find people that wanted to have their own business, needed a lot of support, but were passionate about something. And the first one that we started with was the bakehouse, because we weren't happy with the bread that we were getting. That was it. And they were only going to bake bread for the deli, and then suddenly people started knocking on the door wanting to buy right from them, and so the bake shop opened, and then they started to sell. And this is how Zingerman's has kind of organically grown, and I would certainly answer any questions about that if you have them later on. But mail order was one of those companies. They were two people. They worked across the street from the deli in a little office for 11 months out of the year, and then for about 4 weeks they would hire as many of us as they could find from Zingerman's Deli, because that really was their warehouse, and they'd come over and pick all the products, and we knew them because we all worked together. So since then, as mail order has grown, I was able to carve out a role of picking products and writing about them for our website and for our catalog. So I was able to put that creative writing degree to work. I'm probably like the one guy who graduated creative writing that has a job writing creatively. I gotta be honest with you, no one hiring for that. But it was just through talking to customers, learning about the products, and sharing those stories, I was able to get that kind of experience that was necessary to be a copywriter. Really, if you're talking to someone for 20 seconds, you find you say that the most important thing really quickly, that primary message, which is something we're always talking about marketing, and you try to hook them, right? Because they're on their way to pay. If I can get you to just taste something, then maybe I'll get you to spend $60 on a bottle of olive oil. So that translated very well into writing, and I always just thought that being a travel writer or a food writer would be the best job in the world, because you got to go do things you wanted to do, and you didn't have to pay for them. And more importantly, they paid you to do it. So it sounded great, and it turns out it is. I got like the best job, guys. I go to Europe a couple of times a year to the kind of places that appear in romance novels. You know, I sit in olive orchards and have the focaccia from the mornings. It's crazy, it's stupid. I've never been to Rome. I've never been to Venice. I've never been to all the places you're supposed to go, but I've seen like the southern Illinois of Italy. You know, I've experienced the Iowa of Spain, and it is basically like Iowa. But there's always the connections, and it's bringing back those stories and making that connection to the producer that's so important to Zingerman's from our educational point of view, from trying to demystify food, to be honest with you, to take it out of the Julia Child's French cuisine and down into the rustic and peasant food, which is really so much of what we sell, to be honest with you. So that's my own personal story. I was also lucky enough to meet a wife and then have 2 kids out of there, and she teaches at Skyline High School, so really we're quite embedded in Ann Arbor. And not going anywhere. So if anyone has kids at Eberwhite, we can talk about that later. But here you are. I'm here to talk about the building a culture of great service, because service is one of the 3 most important things to Zingerman's, regardless of where you work. But if you're not very familiar with us, we are a community of businesses that is now at 10. You will also notice one thing that stands out on those names there is there's one business that doesn't say Zingerman's over it, but it is a Zingerman's business, and that's Miss Kim. So if anyone's ever been to Miss Kim, it's in Carytown. They do traditional family-style Korean cuisine. And as the managing partner was getting ready to open, she hemmed and hawed, debated, and came down on deciding that saying Jewish deli Korean food wasn't really going to be the best thing. So even for her, even though it's quite branded to be very Zingerman's, it's fun, it's colorful, it's cartoonish and whimsical, it doesn't say Zingerman's. And I think eventually that was probably the right idea. But it all started with Zingerman's Deli, and that was in 1982, March 15th. The Bakehouse came next in 92. Zing Train actually followed very closely. Those are the folks that go out and teach seminars on how we do things, share the recipes like I'm going to do with you today. Also, they had people come in for 2-day seminars from all over the country. We travel all over the country. I've been to Philadelphia to talk. I haven't garnered that Hawaiian client, which is the most coveted one in Zing Train for obvious reasons. But and then mail order was next, and we're retail, but then we have all these different producers, and we call them Producers Row. And being here, we're actually very, very close to the majority of Zingerman's businesses. Are about a mile right over 94, over by the Ann Arbor Airport, that Costco area. We call it Producers Row, and that's where you will find the Bakehouse. You'll find Zingerman's Creamery. You'll find Zingerman's Candy Company is not up there anymore. You'll find Zingerman's Coffee Company, even though candy has been kind of merged into coffee. That's why you don't see it up there, but that is a producer that's out there. As well as Zing Trains on that side of town, and then our central services, which we call the service network. And that's our IT, that's our HR, that's the insurance, that's the central accounting. That's all those services that being a small company of 10, you would never be able to afford on your own, but you need. And that's what being a part of the Zingerman's community, that's a big part of it, right? That's why you start a Zingerman's business, because you get access to all of this experience, this brand, and a lot of resources that as a young entrepreneur you would never have. So there we all are. And even food tours. And food tours is something that's happened for 18 years, but now has been spun out to be its own business with its own managing partner. And I know I'm going to use a lot of Zingerman's words, so if there's anything that you need clarification, throw a hand up. I'm happy to define it. Okay. All right, well, and this is our North Star, right? The mission statement is always that North Star, the thing that guides you, the thing that you'll never reach, the thing you'll never complete. And there's about 800-ish people that work at all the different Zingerman's businesses. I would guess that not all of them are going to have this memorized, but all of them are going to know that first line, which is we share the Zingerman's experience. And that's what we come to think about all the time when we're on the phone, when we're talking about food, when we're talking even to vendors and people I'm not going to buy from. I'm still trying to share a Zingerman's experience. But selling food that makes you happy, giving service that makes you smile, in passionate pursuit of our mission, showing love and care in all of our actions to enrich as many lives as we possibly can. I don't want to say a standard mission statement, but an inspiring one that really does guide us. And like I say, it's that first sentence. Everyone in Zingerman's knows that first sentence, and that's the anchor that we all moor ourselves to. But when we're talking about success for Zingerman's, we watch 3 bottom lines. And this has become a little bit more common, I would say, in some of the businesses I talk to if I'm out doing consulting with Zing Train. They're not just watching the money anymore, right? There was the one bottom line that still is arguably the most important, which is how much money do you make and are you going to be there next year? But for us, it's always been 3 of them. Good food, let's even say great food, great service, and great finance. Now, in the food department, we define that, and we basically think if we're not hitting and successful on all 3 of these, we're not going to be successful. If our food tastes bad, people are going to stop coming, right? If our service sucks and our food's great and we're charging the right thing, people are still going to stop coming. And maybe this wasn't even true 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. But our whole culture, not just in Ann Arbor, which is a very food-friendly and restaurant-friendly town, but really across the country, has embraced artisan food, has embraced quality over quantity. You don't see so much supersizing anymore, but I guarantee you guys all have friends that consider themselves foodies. Probably some people that take pictures of what they make, right? Share it on Instagram. Recipes all the time. We think about and appreciate and celebrate food across the gamut. So having great food isn't enough anymore. And frankly, it used to be. We used to be the only game in town, but now it's changed. And then the finance, when we need finances, are we charging the right price? Are we undercutting ourselves? Are we screwing ourselves? Are we pricing ourselves out of some things? I would venture that no one here thinks Zingerman's is cheap. But I think that in both the good and the bad, right? It's not cheap for what it costs, but it's also not cheap stuff. It's high quality, and there's a lot of value. And that's what we have always embraced was never being ashamed of what we have to charge, right? And if we do our job right, if we educate, if we explain why a bottle of olive oil costs $55 and they can go to Kroger and find it for $12, not the same one, but they can find olive oil for $12, this is our challenge, this is our duty, this is what we're trying to do, and this is what really becomes the Zingerman's experience. Maybe convincing you, but really when you walk out of there, you've learned something that you didn't know before, and hopefully you'll find it interesting. Hopefully you'll be able to take that information home and make your cuisine or your Sunday lunch a little bit better. But we define these three. Great food, full flavored and traditionally made. Now, we've found anecdotally, full flavored food is usually traditionally made. You know, it's really hard to make something that tastes great if you're taking shortcuts, if you're using imitation ingredients, if you're doing all those little things that maximize your dollar but not your flavor. And this is one of those reasons why we say, hey, you've got to charge what we're going to charge. When we make a sour cream coffee cake, sure, you could get that Entenmann's coffee cake for $12 maybe, but your mouth's going to feel it. It's like that cloying kind of film that you're left with. It's just overly sweet. It doesn't taste like much. And then our traditionally made sour cream coffee cake is using sour cream and butter from Calder Dairy, which is one of the last farmstead dairies in Michigan. You know, we know where our products are coming from. You can pronounce every single ingredient in the sour cream coffee cake because there's no preservatives that are going to make it last on a shelf for 2 months, or they're going to be able to help it get through 18 states of shipping, right? So you could have really good tasting things that isn't organic, that is maybe not as traditionally. You don't have to go mill everything with granite stones, but we found that those things usually go hand in hand and make great tasting food. For us, great finance, sharing key financial targets with open book management. Has anyone ever heard of open book management? So a few of you. So open book management means all of the financial details of all of the Zingerman's businesses, not just mine at mail order, but I can find out the financial health of every single Zingerman's business by looking at the reports. The only thing that's not obvious or not presented are wages and salary, right? Those are personal things, but everything else, how much we're paying for the sun-dried tomatoes that just got imported, how much toilet paper our budget is, what we spend on EMs, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars are going to come in revenue on December 18th, and how many millions of dollars are going to go out on December 19th. We know all these things, and not only are they open, but there's an expectation that every single employee understands, and we spend a ton of time going over spreadsheets, which is boring, I know, but we want to share not only the success, we all win, but we also want to share the pain, right? We trust that the best ideas don't come out of the ivory tower where I sit, right, or that administrative office that's typing away. For us, 9 times out of 10, the best ideas are coming from the people on the front line that are working with the product day in and day out. It could be the people that make a slight twinge to a recipe at Zingerman's Bakehouse, and then suddenly your blueberry muffin is much more delicious. It could be the people over that are working at Zingerman's mail order in a warehouse that have decided that, you know what, I keep having the tape gun over here on the right, but if I had it on the left, that would cut about a half second out of my deal. And then 2 days later, every single station that packs a box has the gun on the left instead of the right, because that's a small improvement that we all share. But it is an expectation that you improve things. And when you share financial details and you show where you're coming up short, or where you need to improve, or what product you thought was going to do really well but needs some help, now instead of the marketer here trying to come up with some witty email that's going to suddenly sell $1,500 worth of preserves, I've got 20 different people on the phones talking about that preserve, because they know we're trying to get to that number. They know that we're trying to sell this. They know what goals they have, and they know that they can impact that. So you're not sharing all of the stress and all the pain. You go, okay, you guys figure it out. We still have accountants that know a heck of a lot more than the dishwasher does. But it's totally common that dishwasher will be able to tell you what the NOP is for his department in this quarter. I can tell you that the mail order are about $16 million. The deli's about $16 million a year, but I'm about $700,000 in profit. Deli's going to be closer in the ones and twos. They've got 200 people that work there. I've got about 70. And then I hire 450 to work with me during the holidays, but that's a little bit different. But this is what we're talking about with great finance. You share the information, you share the success. When you share the pain so that everyone knows what's going on. And then you're also just not bitching about management doesn't know what the heck they're doing, right? Why'd they send that postcard? They don't know. But finally, great service. And I think in addition to our food, when people think about Zingerman's, this is what really comes up, right? How do you guys get your staff to be so nice? How do you get them to be so boisterous? Yes, all good questions. Well, before, we could be really easy and just wait till they came to us because those people were like-minded and they'd been there and they knew what it was like. But nowadays, the employment pool is a lot smaller or shallower or whatever you want to say than it has been before. And a lot of those people that might have been natural fits go other places where they can step in right in. And we still have that kind of service from people that might not traditionally or by their natural instincts want to give great service. Right? Not everyone that works at Zingerman's is like you, where they like a lot of attention and like people listening to you. Right? But we can get them there. We can get them to be to give great service because we define it. And if there's one secret, I bet all of us have had a job at some point in our lives where the manager or the supervisor is like, give great service. And you're like, oh, okay, well, what does that mean? Like, well, be nice. Get them what they want. Okay? We have found that if you give clear expectations, people are able to reach them and exceed them. So even though giving great service seems like we all do it, we're all going to be nice, we have recipes that explain how we do it, and I'd like to share them with you today. Groundbreaking stuff. $80 million a year corporation, business, empire built on these simple recipes. When I started in '94, we didn't quite have these. They were coming about. This was one of the things Zingtrain did. And in the late '90s, the rumor, the legend, was that Maggie Bayless, who's one of the managing partners of Zingerman's Zingtrain, followed around who at the time we all considered to be the best service person, which really was splitting hairs in the '90s when it came to Zingerman's Deli. But her name was Deborah Dickerson, and she was the mother hen of all the deli and all Zingerman's, and the kind of person that would work 10 hours, go home, feed the dog, feed the cat, and come back to work another 6 because she couldn't bear to be away. But the idea, they started asking, like, what do you do? Well, how do you give such great service? She's like, well, I just get what they want. And you're like, well, I find out what they want, I ask them what they want, and then I get it for them. And that seems very rudimentary and simple, but this is literally the kind of Rosetta Stone of information that has been able to employ 800 different people in all walks of life, talking to customers, not talking to customers, that all treat each other according to these simple steps. So the first thing, find out what the customer wants. And in Zingerman's, we do this with a little bit of style. Now, it's not all the same style, but we encourage everyone to have their own style. And mine, as you can tell, is a little bit more theatrical. I've been to Italy, so I talk with my hands. But the way you engage in someone isn't, hi, what can I get for you, sir? Or, oh, can I get you anything? Right? You think about going to the Gap, right? Can I help you today? No, just looking. Okay, great. Because that's the easiest answer in the world to give a, no, I'm all set. And if you don't want to interact with customers, it's a great way to seem like you're being really nice and then get out of work. So oftentimes, every time, the way that we engage a customer has got nothing to do with trying to sell them something. Can you believe the snow out there today? Thanks for coming in. Man, I can't believe you braved it. You look like you're local. Can I get you a coffee or tea or something while you're stopping around? You could take your coat off. But the idea is to engage, right? And even when people call us on the phone, the first question out of our mouth is, what do you want? You want a place to, hey, how are you today? I'm Brad. Welcome. Thanks for calling. What's going on? Bakehouse, creamery. Doesn't matter what business, retail, the roadhouse, restaurant. This is how we follow. We engage to find out what the customer wants. And if the customer wants nothing, great. This is going to be the best nothing you ever had then. I'm going to make it right there. Now it says the second step, also trailblazing, is to get it for them. All right, and then we've broken that out with a little bit of caveats, accurately, right, politely, and enthusiastically. Now we say enthusiastically, I've been around 20 years and only been fired once from Zingerman's. You can ask me about that later, it's a great story. And I've come to realize that I changed that up to be appropriately. And just to give you a quick example, when you're training someone who's new to this job, this is where we default. Default to it enthusiastic. Default to being big. We would always say if some customer complained that you were too nice, Ari would buy you a sandwich. And I've seen him buy many sandwiches. But there's also a lesson in that. So for me though, appropriate. Someone comes into the deli at 11 o'clock in a suit with a black band on their arm, looking to get a sandwich. I'm going to assume that that black over their arm means I'm not going to be the best part of their day. They've got a day that's not going that way, right? So, sir, it's great to see you today. What can we do? I need to get a sandwich. Oh, absolutely. I'll get that for you very quickly. Is there anything else I can do? I can tell you're in a hurry, right? We take all these clues and all these cues, and that's when I say appropriately. I'm not going to ask the guy who's either coming to or going to a few, right? So, appropriately, but as a default, enthusiastically. Be happy. And then the third step is go the extra mile. We all have these kind of terms, I'm sure, right? Go above and beyond. Give it the new, the old college try. Go the extra mile. 110%. The extra mile for us is that extra effort. And I think a lot of people initially think that means giving something away for free. Right? Initially when people start, giving someone a brownie is a great extra mile. It's like, yeah. It's very nice of you. And it was something they weren't expecting. But this is how we define it. By something the customer is not expecting. It doesn't have to have any dollar value, but it has a value to the experience. It could be as simple as helping someone take their bags to their car. It could be sharing a recipe. Right? Oh, I see you got that Duros cheese. You're going to love it. You know, I came across a great recipe in a Swiss book that you might like. I'd be happy to either email it, or if you've got 2 seconds, let me write it down real quick. Right? Didn't cost anything but time, but the value to that customer is huge, right? Because I thought about you, what you're going to do. We've already established a connection. Here's something I know that you don't. That's another thing. I don't know how many retailers are here, but chances are you have some secret specials that aren't on the menu. They're not on the board. They don't come up in the catalog, but there's something that you do that probably you don't even realize has a value. There's something at the Zingerman's, if you wanted to split a sandwich, we have a special term called editing, because there was an old woman in the early years, maybe back in this time, that would come in very regularly, and she'd get a sandwich, but she could only eat half, and her name was Evelyn, and so they decided, we'll just give you half in a basket, and we'll wrap the other half. And then that became a thing, and a term, and a special, because now if you were to go, and you wanted to go with your friend, and yeah, the sandwiches are huge, so if you wanted to split it, they would Evelyn it for you, and each person would get their own pickle. Very small thing, 50 cents, whatever retail-wise, but that experience, that extra special secret, means something. Makes people feel like they're insiders, like they're part of the crew, right? You guys ever heard of that third place in your life? Have you ever heard this talk? There's the first place, which is your home. The second place is where your work, where you go to work. And that third place is where you choose to spend your time, where you want to spend your free time. For us, we constantly, even the website, even my website, even when people call, we consider that people choosing a third place and they're choosing us. Let's think about that with the deli. It's a third place. There are people that go there 4 times a week and they bring their laptop and maybe they spend $3 on a coffee and they're there for an hour and a half. And maybe every 3 weeks they get a pastry. But my God, that person is, that's what you want in your business. You want those people that choose you to spend their time. This is kind of one of those ways we get there. This is mentally the hardest thing to do. Mentally, it's challenging. Getting people what they want is physically challenging. Figuring out what they want, that might take a little bit of maneuvering. That takes some work. But this tests a person's mind, because you have to understand that person and what it is they might think is special. Right? It could be even telling them about something else you came across that's got nothing to do with your own business. We've had people call who want to get some sort of gluten-free brownie that we didn't have because we don't have this facility, and we will not only find that company online for them, we will get the phone number. I've even seen us call the other company for a customer who called us to order from, who's not ordering from us, but we'll call that company to ask them to call that customer because it's easier for that customer. Why? We lost the sale. The next time that person needs anything, even though they didn't buy from us, they're going to start with us. Right? And we're that third place. We're that friend that can answer that question. We're no pressure. We're just going to talk to you. Someone calls and 30 minutes on the phone later they get off and the person on the other end has ordered 2 loaves of bread, we're ecstatic because we know that that person on the other end of that phone line loved that experience because they wouldn't get off. You know, all of our staff are on the phone. They know people's grandchildren's names. They know where they go to college. They know when people are getting married because they share it, because they want to talk to us. Right? We are a call center with no phone tree, by the way. If anyone has a phone tree, I recommend getting rid of it. All right, so those are our 3 steps to giving great service. Find out what the customer wants, get it for them accurately, politely, enthusiastically, or appropriately, and then go the extra mile. Now, not every service experience we have goes well. And if anything, we've probably built our reputation of giving great customer service by fixing things. Right? Our reputation is almost based on how we fix problems when things go wrong. And while this is perhaps the scariest experience for people that are new to a job, when someone's been doing it a long time, these are the kind of challenges we relish. Because getting someone from angry to happy in the service world, well, there's nothing fun. Although I have seen one of our people sell a coffee cake to someone that was trying to sell us something. That's cool. All right, so things do go wrong. And when they do, we have these 5 steps. The first thing being acknowledge the complaint. Your bread is hard. I am so sorry your bread is hard. Your gift went to the wrong address. Oh my gosh, I am so sorry that your gift went to the wrong address. You didn't like that steak that you bought. I'm so sorry. Right? Acknowledging it, listening to it. And step 2, sincerely apologize. Again, I think we're out of this era where everyone's worried about getting sued. I mean, even hospitals apologize for things that go wrong now. But sincerely apologize. This is what we do. I am so sorry that happened. And I am. I'm literally sorry that you've had this experience. And I always put myself in that place. Everyone's got a bad service experience, right? We all are probably Comcast members. So. All right, so we all know what I'm talking about. And if you're like me, before you make that call, I'm going through all of it, right? It's like I'm loading up ammo for this verbal fight that I'm expecting on the other end of the phone. Right? And I always think of that whenever a customer would call us, and you could tell, right? They had to get themselves ready for it. And then they launch in because they're ready for a fight, and they're disarmed. Because oh my gosh, that sounds terrible. Oh, I'm so sorry. And they're like, yeah, and it was hard, and it wasn't supposed to be. No, it really wasn't. You're absolutely right. I'm really sorry. Yes, and it's not supposed to be hard. Yeah. But there's an important part about not doing this in this series, right? The first step is always the first step, and the second step is always the second step. But then, you might have to do a little remix. You go step 1, step 2, back to step 1. Now back to step 2, back to step 1. And the only thing that doesn't really appear in here that I think is incredibly important is to let that customer go at their own pace. Right? Now, I'm talking about a lot of different experiences. I'm going to reference mail order because that's what I'm very familiar with being over the phone for the last 15 years. But let's talk about being in front of someone. Right? You ever seen that face? Anyone ever waited tables or had anything? Right, you see you dropped off that burger, you're just checking, you're walking by, and you see they're like, our instinct is to say, I'll let someone else handle that. But if we see that face and we beeline over and say, is everything okay? I can see something's a little off. This isn't exactly, let me take care of it, right? Let me take care of that right away and we'll get something worked. I didn't want to deal with it. But because I broached it, then everything's really going to be fine. Now, if I didn't and came back 5 minutes later and that burger still has 1 bite out of it and that face hasn't gone away, the whole affair's over. Now we're digging out of a hole. But if I saw that face and I can get there now, I can acknowledge the complaint right away because that's what I want to do. I want to get into this. Then I can stave it off. Also let's talk about being face-to-face with them. Zingerman's Deli, if you've been, there's cheese cases, there's meat cases. There's barriers between us. There's counters. If someone came and had a problem, the first thing to do is to get around that barrier and be literally side by side. And if it's something that they tasted that they didn't like, then we will stand side by side looking at it. And while it seems like a small thing, physically being on their side deflates the whole situation. Now they realize they're not fighting you. You're there as their help, as their support. You're the one that actually knows how this whole system works. So you're going to help them. You're a Sherpa through this problem. And it's not going to be a problem by the end because we're going to fix it. And I think that's when you're going back and forth between that one, that two, as someone that knows so much, I know the solution. I want to get to the solution. I don't want you to be unhappy anymore. And I can save you from being unhappy, but I have to let you get there. I have to let you, when you're ready to move on to the solution, I will be ready. But I really want to get you there because I know what to do. I know how to fix it. So we have to be patient. We have to let them fire the ammo, get it off their chest, say everything that they were prepared to. Because even though you want to be good, you want to give service, you want to really solve it, if I'm interrupting them, I'm not cutting them off, then I'm not listening. I will also say if anyone has a business where there's a front line and a supervisor and a manager, if a problem goes up the line, it is incredibly important that that person, that customer, never has to say the story again. Think about our phone tree with Comcast. Here's my problem. Oh, okay, well, let me get you in touch with Gear Drive. Hi, how can I help you? Well, I just explained it all to Phil, but let me tell you again. And you know what? Not making me happier, right? So as a service provider, whatever you're doing, if it's an account that everything got effed up, and they want to talk to the manager, they want to talk to the owner, you're the one. You're their advocate. You take that complaint up and say, here's what's going on. Here's what happened, because that person should never have to repeat the trials and tribulations they just had to go through. Right? And thank you for being patient while we get through these steps, actually, because you can tell one too. Okay, so we're acknowledging the complaint. I'm so sorry that happened. We sincerely apologize. And my mom said very early on, if you just say sorry, you're not telling me you really understand. You say, I'm sorry that I came home late and kind of drunk. Then she said, yes, that's right. So now you understand that you are not to come home late and drunk? Absolutely. Right? If I'm like, sorry, I'm really sorry. Apologizing shows what you're sorry for. Just in general, that works in life. If anyone's married. All right, so step 3, take action to make things right. Now this is that time when you've got it. Now it's in your court. Now they've given it all to you and you're like, I'm going to fix it. Let's make it happen. Come with me. Right? And in this case, we start at appropriate and we'll go up. The joke was always that Ari would sell the deli for $2 if it made a customer happy, right? And yeah, I don't think he would, but the sentiment is there. Like, if I didn't have to, but I've seen people drive 3 brownies up to Traverse City from Ann Arbor on a Friday night in a snowstorm because they were left out of the order that they picked up at 3 o'clock that afternoon. And we have whole math about it. Yeah, see, we left out 3 brownies and it cost us $400. But that's when you're sharing the math and you're sharing the finances. That means something to those people like, oh yeah, I don't want to leave out any brownies. It has a value to them too. You start to see that front line goes, wait, that means something too. Now, would we have liked to drive up those 3? No, we could have found another way. And we started slower, but they're like, those 3 brownies are for Grandpa's birthday and that's tomorrow, and we don't know if he's going to make it till next week. Then I will get in the car and I will drive up there and I'll have those brownies for you. And chances are we're not going to just bring those 3 brownies. We're going to bring 12. We're going to make it worth to really apologize. Oftentimes working with a customer is something too to find out what it is that they would like to have happen. Now, again, we know the system, we know what all the tools are, we know what we can do, and they don't. But if we go back to our 3 steps about finding out what the customer wants, that's what we're doing. We're finding out what they would like to make this problem better so they're not angry anymore, that we can fix it. Okay? Oftentimes in the mail order world, it's resending, or sending something different, or refunding your money, or refunding your money and sending something, or refunding your money, sending something different, and sending something to your aunt that got the we'll go where we need to go. Yeah, I mean the worst, real quick side story. You guys like Anna? Okay. It was back in my phone days, and I had a woman call who was livid that we had marketed ourselves as sellers of food, specifically gifts, because her son given her a gift of our scones for Mother's Day. okay. I'm like, is there something wrong with the scones then? She's like, no, they're delicious. My husband's eating them right now. Okay. I think that's great then. She's like, he doesn't have money. And then so it launched this thing where she was a mom who just could not handle the fact that her son had spent money on her. Now her son was an adult who had a job and a career and a credit card. But there was something for her that was just, she couldn't enjoy it, and she had to complain because we obviously duped her son. So I said, oh my gosh, well, what would you like? You need to give him his money back. I will absolutely do that. I am going to let him know, because I hate for this to spiral into some other problem where he looks at his credit card statement and then sees some charge. She's like, well, that's fine, whatever. So I did call him, and I said, hi, this is Brad from Zingerman's mail order, and he cut me off and goes, don't give me my money back. So it's happened before, he said it happened a lot. He's like, I'm really sorry, thank you very much. I'm like, no problem. But even in that situation where someone was having a lot of trouble, these were still the steps that I went through. Every one of them, sincerely. She was upset. Did I think it was crazy that she was upset? Absolutely. But she was upset, and I was sincerely sorry she was upset. I'm not going to fix everything in life, but in this case, I could help with the scones, at least have her feel better about it. So that's the taking action to make things right in a crazy way, and at the end, I just didn't do anything. Right? But everyone was happy. Thanking them. Thanking them is a tough one to swallow, I think. It feels like it's out of place. I mean, they complain, why am I thanking them for yelling? Well, even 20 years ago when this all came about, the old adage was, if someone has a good time, they'll tell 3 people. If something goes wrong, they'll tell 10. And then this Facebook came along, and Instagram, and Twitter. And instead of telling 10 people, they could tell 10,000, 1,000, like that. Right? So we thank people for complaining. For many reasons, but the most important is that they gave us a chance to make it right. They gave us a chance to stop that from happening. They gave us a chance to keep them as a customer. The easiest thing in the world for any customer to do, unless you're with Comcast, is to not visit that business anymore. Right? No one's here from Hunter House, right? That burger, obviously good. I'm never going there again. It was a gamble. I lost $2.69 because I left the sandwich out, but the way they treated me about it, I'm done. I don't ever need to go to you again. And they don't have to go to Zingerman anymore. Literally, they don't. They can go anywhere in southeastern Michigan and find really amazing food. So when I thank them, when we thank them, when any of us thanks a customer for complaining, that's what we're thanking them for. Thank you for giving me a chance to keep you. You could have easily never come back again, told a bunch of people how bad it was. And even if that didn't really resonate, I would have lost it. Would have been gone, and who knows how many other people you would have told us about. We're talking about marketing here. Those are the best marketers, right? Those customers, those clients that love what you do, they tell everyone. They found you. You're their secret. They want to share the world. So that's why we thank them. And then finally, the last thing we do is document the complaint. And it's somebody's job to compile all of the mistakes and all of the complaints across all the different Zingerman's businesses to see if they can spot any trends, and they do. We have fixed our quality control with bakehouse products because you get 3-4 different outlets saying, that scone tasted a little off on Monday. And then they had the documentation to go, wait, oh my God. Oh, well that was that. Holy cow, something went wrong on that Saturday morning. Hundreds, thousands even, of complaints. And for us, a code red isn't just a problem, it could be a request. I'd like you to carry this preserve I saw at the farmer's market. Okay, I got it documented. I'm going through them. I'm going to look at them. We treat these and think of them as incredibly important, not only to our current success, but our future success. Because if we can find out what our customers want, even when something goes wrong, this is information about what our customers want. Someone trips, they changed the whole driveway of the deli. Basically because people were a little confused and people would drive up cars and they didn't like it and they were able to renovate it, so that eliminated that problem altogether. Acknowledge what happened. Apologize for it. Take action to make it right. Thank them. And be honest about it, because it really was. If you think about it, they really gave you a chance to keep it. And then document the complaint. And even in our documentation, this is where we do a lot more financial work. And we put down the costs and the labor involved. And we see that that brownie that you left out of that order turned out to cost us $39. And now I've left plenty of time for questions. I think. There I am. Yay. All right, but what kind of questions do we have about Stacey?
Brad, so I went to Zingerman's and had my free bread card.
Yeah.
So I walked in and I said, "You have Zingerman's raisin bread?" And she's like, "Yes," because sometimes they're out. And I'm like, "Yes," and I've got the free bread card to get it. And she's like, "Oh, you can't use that for this kind of bread. It's this kind or whatever. But don't you worry, you're using it for this because that's what you wanted." Now, does that get documented? Because at Dollar Bill, I have the freedom to do lots of stuff like that.
Yeah.
I never thought about documenting stuff, so it wasn't a complaint.
Right.
So do only complaints, or does even something, when that happens, did she have to go write that down?
She did.
She did,
She
okay.
did in that case, and that would be something that the department works with a lot. You guys sort of like a systems culture gap, right? The systems are how you say you do things, and the culture is how you really do things.
Mm-hmm.
And all of us should work. And through training, we can bridge that. We at Zingerman have a culture of breaking rules. What she did in that moment was break a rule. But that's also our expectation, that everyone that works for us will break a rule for a customer, if that's what the customer needs and wants. And that was my first day on the job, and did my first ever job, 18, a guy came in and said, "I don't like this bread." I'm like, "Oh, well, what would you like instead? Let's do something else." And he's like, "I don't know." He was kind of rough. And then he left, and the supervisor's like, "That's perfect. That's what you do." And I'm like, "Okay, it just felt like what I would want to have happen." They're like, "Exactly." I just treat them the way I would want to treat them. That also kind of comes out of something. There was something that used to happen that would really infuriate people at the deli, and I witnessed it happen where someone will come in, take a bottle off the shelf, walk up to the counter and say, "I want to return this, I don't have the receipt." I know, a lot of gasps. What do you think we would do? We gave them money. And why would I give them money? Because it's my personal belief, and everyone else is saying, that it doesn't make good financial sense, or from a brand or service point of view, to develop systems to stop 1% of the population. 99% of people that walk through the door who want to return something and don't have a receipt are honest about it and don't have a receipt and they really want to do it and I want to give them money. But if I say, "Oh, sorry, legitimate customer, I really need a receipt," I'm a dick. I'm a jerk. Why would you come to us, right? Again, even if you didn't like it, you're secure and you're confident that you'll buy anything from us because you know that if you don't like it, I'll give you your money. I trust you. So I develop systems to prevent some small amount of people from taking advantage of you that impacts everyone else negatively. We have a returnless, excuseless guarantee at Zingerman's channel. If you don't like it, come on. You get something new, give you money back. You can tell me why, that'd be great. But I'm not going to challenge you to prove that you didn't really like it. I'm not going to ask you how much you ate. I'm not going to say, "Well, what's the customer order number you ordered?" I mean, I can tell if you ordered from Zingerman's mail, but I've got a computer. So let's use that deli again. But again, yes, that one person took advantage. And yes, it was infuriating. It was infuriating because we all knew we were going to give them the money, even though we witnessed it. Over time, if people take advantage, there are ways of getting that out. And that is the job of an owner. Right? I can't fire any customer. My managing partners can. It takes a lot to get to that point. I also think it bears saying that it's not the expectation of Zingerman's that as a service provider, you should take the worst of the worst. If someone is belligerent, calling you names, being physical by any means, you're going to hand this up to a manager. You're going to hand this up to an owner eventually, if that's what it takes. We don't. Just giving good service does not mean being treated terribly. But it might mean reacting appropriately if when someone's treating you terribly. It does mean not getting to their level. It does mean trying to maintain. And if it's something you can't do because they're pushing a lot of buttons and some of them are inappropriate and not fair, then the best thing I can do to give you great service is to have Elmo do it. Because, wow, you're really rude. There are rude people. But you don't stay in business by just keeping the customers you like. Rude people spend money too. They do. maybe it takes a little bit more work, but oh well.
3 questions. One is the challenges and the rewards of dealing with some of the challenged workers that you hired. I know there's been busters and whatever that have been there forever. 2 is what are the special benefits that you give to Zingerman's employees? Because I know you guys go above and beyond.
Yeah.
And then the last question, kind of unrelated, but in 3 years, Barry and Paul will be at it for 40 years. And so the question is, how do you ensure succession of the brand and all the entities into the future?
That question is what the whole partners group has been wrestling with for the past couple of years.
This is hard to tell.
The how it's going to pass on, right? Because Paul has children that have zero interest in the business, so that's not going to go that way. And we have this, not a board, but our managing partners, our partners group is made up of the people that own a stake in all the other businesses. And without getting too much into it, Paul and Ari have a company called Dancing Sandwich Enterprises that owns the brand, that owns this, and we pay 7.5% of all revenue goes to that, and that's where the services get funded. So Ari, Paul, they don't make any decision for any business, but they're direct, they get fees basically for having this business. But what do we do when Ari, who is one of the world's greatest PR men, isn't doing it? Between you and me, I think he'll be in the grave when he stops doing it. The first day he's not doing it is the first day he's no longer on the service, because the man just can't stop. But Paul's somebody who is an entrepreneur and helps on the back end, and many people might not know Paul Saginaw because he isn't as out front and hasn't been the face of Zingerman the way Ari has. He's been the one that's shepherded all the new businesses up. He's the one that gets you the oven when it breaks. He's the one that finds you that location to have your restaurant. He does all those back end things. And then Ari has been the one that's built our brand to be the kind of thing where we can support 10 businesses because of him, really. So that's a difficult question. There's something dealing with a lot of lawyers. Can't answer that one specifically. The first one, I've worked with many people, both either with special needs as employees. We've always wanted that to be a part of our diversity. And I did point out that we have 3, the great food, great finance, great service. There's a shift coming that we might have 4 bottom lines, which is also great diversity. We just think it's important in us being a strong company and having best ideas. Anyway, for those kind of employees, how we handle it, oftentimes they'll come with a job coach, someone who is paid by another organization to help them. But I think the impact of having those kind of employees around is not only nice to do for the community also to see, but as someone that worked very closely with a lot of these people, get a little teary, sorry. It's great for us as employees. It solidifies our feeling of community and family in ways that just working with able-bodied people kind of doesn't sometimes. It's not only people with special needs, but we've had a very tight connection with the recovery community. People coming out of Dawn Farms for either drug or alcohol have started with Zingerman's Deli, and as a matter of fact, three of the managers of the warehouse all came out of recovery. Either people that 20 years ago were close to a gutter, and now they run the warehouse of a $16 million business. So how do we do it on a case-by-case basis? But we also have a commitment from the company to work closely and to build and to have these connections and relationships with our community. The second one was
employee management.
Yeah. So we want to do a thrivable wage, or not just a livable wage. And probably it's slower than we've wanted it to be honest with you. A lot of us have gotten to be about $12 an hour. At mail order, we've been able to pay that. Our goal is to be at $15, I think, an hour by the end of 2021.
They shared that with a lot.
They did, yeah. And sometimes it's worked. And even for us, and we're kind of the cash just rich in the whole business, it's still financially going to take a chunk. And so it's something we have to plan for every year to know that our employee costs are going to go up. Other kind of ways we want to have benefits, we certainly have health insurance and dental and vision and all those kinds of things that we do. A lot of us have gain share. at all the businesses, some of us are making profit, but we try to find ways. We also have an employee share kind of a situation. We call them community shares. We can all buy a share. It's worth $1,000. And then that is done over the whole community's financial health and profit-wise. We all get a dividend in September because our fiscal year goes August to July. And then the other benefits that we're trying to do, I think, are trying to give our staff as many chances to grow and become who they want to be in our own system and in our business as possible. And that means giving them raises, giving them more to do. If they've got a great idea, a project that they want to run with, go for it. We really want to try to grow in-house as many leaders as we can, and we're kind of at an inflection point. I mean, I still think I'm one of the young guys. I forget I'm 42 years old. You know, I started when I was 18, but I might be the old guard. I should really be looking at who's younger to try to bring them up now. I should be switching into mentor mode instead of still being, which is still fun. But, you know, we don't have a lot, we have probably no BMWs in our parking lots. But you know, people are really happy to go there and happy to work there. And we're a lot of people that just enjoy doing what we do with who we do it and see that value in it. You know, as the one kid in career day in middle school, it's like the guy came in and said, if you enjoy what you're doing, you'll never work a day in your life. I'm like, that sounds perfect. I hate work. So yeah, it's there. What other questions?
One more question? Awesome. Can we please put our hands together? So, great topic. You know, we all, in everyday part of our lives, have customer service. You know, with our own families, with the job we do on a daily basis, in every store or business we go into. So, I mean, great to hear that. I always love Brad's passion because, I mean, did you see a script? I mean, this is just coming from the heart. And I was fortunate I got to spend that afternoon with Brad over at the warehouse last time I spoke. And I mean, just by the time I left there, I felt like I worked there. I swear to God, people were coming up and saying hello to me, like I worked there. I was like, this is awesome. And it is, it really is. And that, I mean, that comes out right now in Brad's talk. So I hope you'll take some of the information Brad shared today. This talk will be on our website next week, so you can watch it again and again. This weekend, you can just see Brad all weekend if you want. So it's an awesome that we're able to share this type of information with you guys. Hopefully you can take the time to be what you do, not only in your business life, but in your personal life as well. I think that's important. You know, everybody wants to be well-rounded people, not just in business, but in life in general. So, you know, appreciate your talk, and you guys went right with what that means. So thank you so much for being here, Brad.
Email me if you have any questions. Email me. I probably have like 3 cards because I'm so Zingerman. I'm not used to carrying business cards around. But even when I come to a networking event.
There's a t-shirt commercial that says, you know, this is a real person email. Don't email me.
I think it's up before.
This is you can get access to all those recipes I just showed you. If you would like, this is a short URL, the zcob.me/service. We'll have free resources along with what Zing Train teaches and presents on. So the steps to customer service, we've got customer service over the phone, we have all these kind of things. You know, the one thing I'll also say is I give this kind of service to the people I buy from, and I give this kind of service to the people I don't buy from. So when people send me something to try, to taste, they'd like us to buy it, I treat them really well to say no. Like, I'm so sorry to have to tell you that here's the reasons why I don't want to have it, but thank you so much for taking the time to send them. And then they love it. So treat it with your vendors, treat it with your providers, treat it with your coworkers, your employees, your bosses. It works everywhere as James.
So thank you guys for being here today. It's awesome to see this kind of turnout, especially on a crappy day like today. We'll be here again next month. Our speaker next month will be Brad again. I'll have Brad every month if you guys all show up.
I can talk about other things too, right?
Yeah. But we do have a big speaker next month. Kevin Gillespie is going to talk about his work with Big B Coffee. So another great brand, local brand. That has a great story to it. Kevin is a long-time contributor to LA2M. He's a great speaker, so I know you'll enjoy it. I hope you're all back here again next month. Please tell a friend about LA2M. If this is your first time, please come back again. Second Wednesday of every month we're here, except in the summertime. So, Ian, you're standing up because
I just wanted to ask
please, if you're on Facebook, to check into the event so you can share it with others. And also go to our website and sign up for our newsletter so you can be informed every month of, we don't give it through email away. You'll get 4 emails a month, and Stacy will send you who our upcoming speakers are.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, social media obviously is just such a giant part of all of our lives, and it's really helping us. We just recently switched how we do our emails, so we actually we purged a lot of old emails out of there that just were getting returned undeliverable. So we kind of have a new email list. So if you're not getting emails, please visit our website. Make sure, again, we don't send junk emails. It's just about our topics and what we're doing. So again, there are some surveys I think on the table. If you have an opportunity to fill out that survey, you can leave it on the table. We would appreciate it. We always want feedback of what we can do to keep this organization strong and moving in the right direction. Leah has something else.
One other thing, just sponsorships.
So the last thing I wanted to say is, again, sponsorships. We run our business based on our help of our sponsors. So if you are interested in doing monthly sponsorships and annual sponsorships, if you'd like to sponsor 1 month, you'll get part of the email, and you'll have the opportunity to get up here and talk about your company for a few minutes before the next session. So please see myself or one of the LA2M people, and we'll be happy to talk to you about that. Otherwise, please stick around. Don't forget to pay your bill. Thank you to our staff. We appreciate the local welcome. People, thank you so much. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Be safe driving out there. Thank you, guys. Thanks again, brother.
Is there anything in particular you're like?